So it's got some steel shot.
Yep.
So that acts as your wear layer. So you've got magnetic seals here.
Right.
That acts as a stoppage to stop your shot getting thrown out.
Righto. So if you don't prime, you end up with firing shot out the side.
The first 2 minutes that you fire up with.
Got it.
Your shot. Once it's got it there, we're right.
And how did you select what shot you were going to use here?
What we've got is this 330s today.
Okay.
Which is
330,
our most common size shot that we use.
Okay.
Now, depending on what you're trying to do, it's probably a little bit aggressive for what we're trying to do, possibly, but it will prep that floor perfectly for you.
Okay.
It's not going to dig holes in it.
Right. That's kind of important. And when you say it's probably a bit aggressive, is that because of the size of it?
The size of the shot, yeah.
Okay.
So if you're doing a thin roll coat down on the floor,
yep,
you'd say probably go on this size, you can go down to an S230. We've got S330, 270, 230. So the finer the shot, the quicker you're going to blast, the finer you're going to leave the surface. But the less material you're actually going to take off.
Yep.
So if you've got a thicker coating, say a 200 micron epoxy, you might need a slightly larger shot size to get that to actually break through that epoxy.
Okay.
That's the only time you go steel shot larger. Talking to Jeff this morning, his other brand Shotblaster just, no good. So I said, what size shot you using? S460. So there's half your problem.
Okay.
Very large.
Very large shot.
And why do they tend to use a larger shot?
Because that's an industry failing.
Okay.
One of the industry failings in shot blasting. They think bigger is faster.
Okay.
If you've got, don't quote me on these numbers, but S460 I believe is around 55,000 little balls per pound of shot.
Okay.
S330 I think is 155,000.
Okay.
So you've got 3 times the number of balls per kilogram of material going through.
Yep.
You can do it faster because you've got more impacts per millimetre.
Okay. But you're getting a finer profile as well.
Which you don't need a massive profile, you know that.
No, and that's one of the points that I make at the end of this series is based on what we're doing here, what prep is going to be acceptable. I always like shot blasting, but what's required for the application versus the specification, and make sure it's the right prep.
Yep, absolutely. What are you actually putting down here?
Based on what I'm doing here, I'm going to have to scratch coat first to close off and make it all even, but it'll just be roll coats.
I'll try and give it as light a shot blast as possible.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. so we're here with Roland from Floorex. They came out, they dropped whatever they were doing to just come out and have a bit of fun on this slab. It was a perfect fit to try the shot blasting versus the other types of prep that we were looking at. And so Roland, we filmed a bit of you setting up beforehand. You've now had a play on the slab. What did you think? How did you feel that the setup was? What would you perhaps do differently? What did you notice about this compared to some of the ground surfaces?
Sure. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate the opportunity to come out and see you. One thing probably I would have done differently was perhaps inquired from you a little bit closer as to what you were actually going to be doing.
Nothing like a surprise though, Roland. Nothing like a surprise.
So as to what coating you're putting down, how thick the coating was you're aiming to put down. What we did notice was that we were, I believe, a little bit quicker than diamond grinding in this situation.
Yep.
And the prep was quite substantially different between the different surfaces you've got here.
Yes.
Differently, I probably would go lighter shot, so a smaller shot size. We've got S330 in this today.
Yep.
I probably would have gone just slightly smaller, just to give a more even blast and take this material off.
Okay. Now, if you went slightly smaller, you'd have to travel quicker.
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
So we're getting more impacts per millimetre across. Yeah.
Okay. Would. And if you went smaller, how would that change what we're seeing? Like as an example on this crack, how that's blown out and clean it out.
Sure. Probably a bit less cleaned out. It would still clean it out, the real soft material on the top.
Yep.
From the actual other surface, you'd probably get a little bit more of this original surface contamination off.
Yes.
Without as much penetration as we can see over here, which was a bit of obviously a slow stop here, without as much penetration into the concrete below. Yeah,
and I mean we have a little bit of inconsistency because we were playing. We're trying to see what it's about and understanding the differences. So to be expected compared to setting up just a perfect profile.
No, it seems to have gone very well, I think, on the overall finish. One thing I think we've talked about before, but the actual de-dusting of the surface, if you do that on shot blasting, is what you see. If we do that on grinding, that's what we see there.
Yeah, and that ground surface is actually vacuumed.
Yes, correct.
And this hasn't been vacuumed. We've still got some steel shots sitting here. So, that was a significant difference. The other difference that I noted too was where we had some contaminated area, the shot blaster cleaned it up nicely. I can see that it hasn't actually touched it on the other forms of prep.
Oh, that certainly is another very good pro for shot blasting, is contaminant removal.
Yep.
So you've got your abattoirs, you've got your food factories, you've got your workshops, anything else like that. Certainly does assist you with that.
Very good. Well, I'm impressed. I'm always impressed by shot blasting. It's a great profile for resin flooring and for prep. We're sitting here, we have chosen to do a roll coat in this particular application. I can see that I'll probably scratch coat to tidy things up and make it all even, but I'm happy with the profile. I think that's terrific, and I can see the advantages of shot blasting, how it's dealt with the undulations compared to grinding, which has still got some hollows that will need to be touched up again.
Yeah, and that does also point out some of the limitations of shot blasting. You're not going to flatten the floor off, which in this situation we're not concerned about anyway, and also you are going to open up cracks or anything like that. So if you are doing just a roll coat down, there will be some patching required in that situation.
Yes.
Whereas if you're doing your high build trail down polyurethanes or whatever, certainly a great prep straight on.
Excellent. Well, that's tremendous. Roland, thank you again for coming out. I really appreciate it. And as always, take care and keep smiling.